next session, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you now to speakers with local and national representatives to discuss how virtual coordination, an enabling framework and a financing facility can really accompany infrastructure investments to enable cities to transition to sustainable mobility. So it's really our focus and goal to get hands-on on the sustainability and the sustainable mobility. It's a roundtable of national governments empowering cities for transformational change. And I'd like to start with a quick introduction round of our panelists. So I do see you all, and I hope you can hear me well. A warm welcome to all of you. Thanks for joining us from all over the globe, of course, different time zones, but I do see you. So let me start with Randy Wilson, Head of Department of Transportation in the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly.
Merci pour votre assistance.
Merci. He's a passionate development planner who has also worked in the Ghana Local Government Service for over 19 years. Randy Wilson, a warm welcome to you. Give us a wave so you can. Nice to see you. Great to have you on board. Thank you. Then we do have Fatia Niji, Strategy and Project Director in the Tunisian Ministry of Transport. She is responsible for the sector strategy, major projects, development plans, fundraising, and the climate change and sustainable development issues at the Tunisian Ministry of Transport. So Fatia, merci et bienvenue à vous. Great to have you on board. Then we do have Prisha Lablonde Tene Mbimi, coordinator of the Douala Urban Mobility Project with a background in civil engineering. Prisha is in charge of the Service of Mobility and Management of Urban Transport in the Douala City Council since 2016. Warm greetings go out to Cameroon. Bienvenue. Nice to have you live in the studio from Douala. And last but not least, another gentleman, Assistant Secretary Roderick Planter from the Investment Program in Planter in the National Economic and Development Authorities of the Philippines. So I guess it's late at night or late in the evening already for you. Thank you so much for joining us for this conference, the Transport and Climate Change.
Good afternoon and good morning.
Great. I'd like to start with a first round of questions, again, starting with Roderick in a moment, as you are all members of the Mobilize Your City, working at the local or at the national level to really transform urban mobility, really go a step ahead. Can you tell us maybe what you are actually aiming for? What are you doing differently that works and that is actually not just working, but also showing you the results that we all want to see? Roderick, I'd like to start with you.
Yeah, okay, thank you, and thank you for inviting us, it's our pleasure to share to you preliminarily in this global forum our journey thus far. So I guess we'd like to say we formally started our journey sometime in 2016 when we saw that there's an absence of a single encompassing document for the transport sector. So there's so many legislative challenges, and what we wanted to do is to sort of do some work around things that can be administratively undertaken. And by 2017 and early 2018, we had successfully published our National Transport Policy and its implementing rules and regulations. So it's a government driven initiative. And at the same time, we learned about different work streams, the ASEAN Sustainable Cities, and happily our friends from your organization came to us about sustainability, sustainable mobility. So we heard about the NAMP and we appropriated it. We call it Philippine Urban Mobility Program. So happily, we got there. So government, the realization is that we need to have a coherent policy framework at the center. We need to have a vertical integration, of course, and financing comes along with it. But technically also, we'd like the monitoring of and tracking of progress that comes along with such initiatives. So we've been doing a lot, but I don't think we have enough time to tell you about it. But pleasantly, GIZ is also with us in this journey. Thank you.
Well, we do have enough time, but I come back to you in a moment. So don't hesitate. When it's too long for the time running, I will, of course, make a dot, but don't worry, I keep the time in mind. With us also Randy Wilson. Maybe you can give us a glimpse on what is actually on your desk right now. What are you doing differently that actually works out and then brings up the solutions that are needed?
All right, thank you so much for the opportunity given us. Kumasi is very new in the SUMP process, not like my boss just mentioned earlier. We actually prioritized sustainable mobility activities in 2019 when the mayor of the city saw that mobility is one of the three main areas that he's going to focus his attention on. So Kumasi is a nodal city and a traditional one. So a lot of these vehicles and transport activities pass through the city to other parts of the country. And so the mayor prioritized that we should have a sustainable mobility activity. And because of that, he got all the other municipalities around Kumasi, called the Greater Kumasi Metropolitan Area, involved in charting out a path. We put in a proposal and then got selected to be part of the SUMP process. Now, we don't want to have the systems working only within the KMA, the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly system, but we want it to go beyond our scope, getting the Greater Kumasi in. And the next point is we collaborate a lot with the academic and research institutions in the city. We have the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, we have the Kumasi, BRRI, and other institutions that are involved in transport-related activities. And all these institutions are brought on board to be able to support whatever the city is doing so that there's a very good academic base in everything that we want to do with respect to the mobility issues. Also, in other projects that we want to have, and earlier on it was mentioned that we're looking more at a program approach than just a project approach to whatever is being done. So other projects that we have, from VNG deals project, we have the AFD sponsoring Kumasi Transport Enhancement Project. We have the World Bank with us, and so we try to put up a synergy from all these projects so that whatever is being done here is complemented by another activity over there. Then the transport operators, we know the informality systems that we have in our cities, where transport activities are run mainly by these informal organizations, and we try to get them involved in every stage of the process. So right from the word go, they know that we're going to have this sustainable urban mobility plan prepared, and they are also ready to actually support us in the process. Every single opportunity that is gotten, whether we are meeting the press, whether we are meeting traders, whoever we are meeting and there is an opportunity, we take that and the mayor will use it and mention the sustainable urban mobility plan preparation so that people will get themselves ready to actually support it when it starts. We are at the very initial stage. A consultant has been selected to come and lead the process. They've come to do the initial rounds, and they are supposed to come in from July, and we start the process. And we look at this as something that is working for the city and will give us a very good result. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Randy. And of course, the same question goes also to Fatia in Tunisia. How would you answer that question when we talk about what is actually working out and what brings up the solutions that we need?
Merci beaucoup. Bonjour à tous. Merci pour cette invitation pour partager l'expérience tunisienne. Pour partager l'expérience tunisienne. Donc, en Tunisie, on a commencé dans le cadre de Mobilisation City l'élaboration de notre politique nationale de mobilité urbaine en 2018. Donc, entre 2018 et 2020, on a réussi à élaborer notre politique nationale de mobilité urbaine durable. En mai 2020, le Conseil des ministres a adopté et validé cette politique nationale de mobilité urbaine. Donc, elle est officielle. Elle est construite autour les axes principaux liés à la gouvernance, le financement, le renforcement des capacités, la smart mobility, et bien sûr, tout ça, c'est sous le chapeau de changement climatique dans une vision durable, de durabilité. Du coup, donc, cette politique, elle est adoptée par un groupe de travail de haut niveau. On a donc, qu'est-ce qui a marché? Donc, on a coordonné avec toutes les structures concernées de la mobilité à l'échelle nationale, ce qui a fait que l'appropriation de cette politique nationale de mobilité urbaine a été bien appropriée par tous pour que, au moment de la mise en œuvre, on trouve moins de difficultés. Donc, les collectivités locales, les ministères à l'échelle centrale, les départements qui sont d'habitude, chacun travaille tout seul, là, ils sont tous autour de la même table, ils sont tous conscients des problématiques de la mobilité urbaine durable et ils veulent tous ensemble, main dans la main, aller vers l'objectif de moderniser et mettre à niveau donc tout le système de la mobilité urbaine donc à l'échelle nationale. Voilà. Donc, vu le temps, donc je ne vais pas entrer dans les détails de ces axes de la politique de mobilité urbaine, mais c'est comme je dis, on a tout un plan de travail avec le timing, avec les financements nécessaires, qui fait quoi. On a vraiment une politique nationale de mobilité urbaine qui est très ambitieuse et on a commencé donc à mettre en œuvre les axes prioritaires dont je vous parlerai peut-être plus tard.
Alors, merci bien, Fatia. On va parler des ambitions dans un moment. Let me just go back to English, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you had a translation. For the backstage crew, I hadn't had an English translation, but I did follow her along in French. Nevertheless, I think we're gonna organize the languages a little bit in a moment. Alors, encore une fois, merci bien à Fatia. Merci. Again, thank you very much, Fatia, for outlining some of your key points. I go into that in a moment, just completing that first round and bringing in Prisha LaBlonde Ten Mbimbi with greetings to Douala, also asking you what actually works out in your local perspective, and of course, what are the results that you can present us?
Bonjour à tous, je vous remercie déjà pour l'invitation et l'intérêt porté à la ville et à l'initiative. Nous avions déjà, la ville de Douala avait déjà en 2009 un plan de déplacement urbain et de transport qui ne traitait que du volet infrastructure et pas de la mobilité. Donc, au vu des enjeux de la ville qui sont en gros étalement urbain et urbanisation vers les périphéries, nous avons opté, après la connaissance de l'initiative Mobilage City, pour l'élaboration d'un plan de mobilité urbaine soutenable. Ce plan de mobilité urbaine soutenable a été élaboré de façon consensus et participative avec tous les acteurs du secteur du transport dans la ville de Douala. Il a permis de s'orienter vers un report modal pour des modes de transport plus capacitaires et l'ouverture aux modes peu valorisés comme le transport fluvial, étant donné que la ville de Douala est une ville côtière, ou alors ou des modes pas du tout pensés comme le câble dans la ville. Ce plan de mobilité permet de répondre aux enjeux de la ville en allant aussi vers une réduction des gaz à effet de serre. Puisque c'est un processus participatif et consensuel, il a été bon de mettre sur la table tous les acteurs, notamment les acteurs du transport artisanal. Et dans ce plan, il a été suggéré de de promouvoir la cohésion entre le transport dit artisanal et le transport, je dirais, formel ou institutionnel, en vue d'adresser donc tous les problèmes de réduction de gaz à effet de serre, de décongestion ou de digitalisation. Donc voilà en gros notre histoire dans le terme de la mobilité durable.
What we did to go for sustainable mobility. Thank you.
Also, thank you to you guys, to Douala. Merci, Brisha. Coming up to our second round, when we talk about, of course, now we heard and listened a lot to the solutions and maybe what is working out. But of course, on every journey and on every path, we all know there are obstacles, there are moments of hesitation. So can you tell us a little bit more in the second round what are obstacles for cities to take really the action in the sector of sustainable mobility? And of course, when we talk about finance, this is happening to be a big point of obstacles. So how do you actually focus that, and where do you build necessary frameworks for financing facilities that help cities to take action in sustainable mobility? And I'd like to have the same order because we need that same order for also the interpreters. I'd like to start again with Roderick, please.
Yeah, thank you. We start with financing, right? Yeah, well, I
Talking
guess,
about obstacles, and of course within that frame and obstacles, also the big topic of financing. How do you actually put it into reality?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I guess I'm from national government. What we're seeing is that obstacles at the city level is basically their inclination to support the sustainable mobility sector initiatives. Basically, they're more closer to the ground. The trade-offs are clearer. So we've been in our work with GIZ, we've been piloting some data collection toolkits, but some are more receptive than others. I guess that's why the center is needed for finance to incentivize sort of the behavioral change that we want from them. And I guess also to partly address the need for capacities. So right now, the ongoing conversation is mostly about financing it, and it's really very challenging. The conversation with government right now is having this sort of sustainable finance roadmap, making all this conversation about financing across all sectors in one working group, one set of eyes looking at it based on different silos. We call it a technical working group, sustainable finance, but unfortunately we're still in the conversation stage. But we can actually tell you about our success or about this PUV, Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program. It's featured in one of our products, the public Philippine Urban Mobility Program, somewhere there. It's basically how to sort of do credit enhancement involving so many players, the finance department, our government-owned controlled corporations, and getting our fleet owners to agree to sort of some interesting rates, amortization payments, and whatnot. Thank you.
Thank you, Roderick. And of course, also to you, coming to Randy now again. When we talk about obstacles, what would you like to point out as an obstacle? And of course, do you have advices for a necessary framework, a financial framework, or financing facilities that are going to help?
All right, thank you so much for the opportunity again. When it comes to obstacles, I mentioned earlier on that the transport operational activities in our cities have been more of led by the informal transport operators. And so attitudinal change is a very major thing. There are high volumes of informality in the transport sector, ease of entry, unregulated systems, and those things. And so if you want to streamline, it becomes a little bit of a problem for you. The next one is the lack of a shared vision earlier as to what exactly we all need to do to ensure that we are able to move to that level of vision. And so you might say something today, somebody else has a different impression altogether, preventing you from getting there. The next point is political leadership. There are some times that you need people to stand up and see to it that what has been planned, what has been decided is actually implemented and you are getting the result there. You don't have this, and then it makes it a little difficult. Commitment to getting to see the end to whatever has been agreed on is another. Then finally, the main thing, the financial resource to back some of the activities. Good plans might be there, but then what resources are there to actually help in doing this is the last obstacle. But in our effort to see to it that we go beyond these obstacles, the preparation of the sump has brought us together in trying to vision out what exactly needs to be done. The chief executives of the various municipal assemblies coming together, we taking up local champions and institutions to help us, trying to push in a certain commitment and then setting out who does what at what point in time. I think it is a good time for us because a few cities have done this, and then we pick from the experiences that they have and then try to push some financial resources towards implementation. The little that we have with international assistance fine, if there is nothing coming in, the little that the city has, we try to push in and try to do it the way it has to be done. And the city of Kumasi is taking advantage to participate in a lot of these international activities, the World Bank, the AFD, and every other organization's activity. We want to be part of it so we can learn and actually go ahead and build all these things into the local government system so that it does not serve as if this is a project or it's a program, it ends, and then the local government can't continue with it. But I want to build it into our local government system so it becomes part of the day-to-day activities that we carry out. So these are the obstacles, and this is what the city also has put up as what can really work for us. Thank you.
Thank you also, Randy. Heading over to Fatia again. Of course, when we talk about obstacles, where do you see obstacles? You mentioned, of course, a few bits and pieces, but maybe you can go into depth into these points again. And also, talking about the financial frameworks that are needed on our way forward.
Merci beaucoup. C'est une question très, très importante. Le financement, donc on cherche toujours le financement, on cherche les solutions pour le financement. Donc, comme j'ai dit, nous, en élaborant notre politique nationale de mobilité urbaine, on était conscient qu'il faut avoir un financement pérenne pour les projets et les réformes qui y sont inclus. Et du coup, donc, tout un axe de la PNMU, c'est autour du financement. Et là, donc, en phase de mise en œuvre, on est avec les experts en train d'approfondir les scénarios de la création d'un fonds national pour la mobilité urbaine. On a eu l'accord de principe donc des conseils des ministres pour la création de ce fonds. On est en train d'approfondir les scénarios pour les ressources et emplois de ce fonds, surtout vu la conjoncture donc actuelle à l'échelle nationale et internationale, la conjoncture sanitaire, la conjoncture sociale, la conjoncture économique et politique. Donc, on a eu c'était pas facile de proposer de nouveaux taxes, par exemple, de prélèvements pour le transport, mais on est en train de voir comment réallouer les fonds existants dans la caisse, dans le budget, donc national pour avoir une partie pour la mobilité urbaine. Donc, notre programme et projet, c'est d'insérer dans la loi de finances de 2022 la création de ce Fonds national de mobilité urbaine. On va l'alimenter donc principalement pour une phase de très court terme pour l'année 2000. Vous m'entendez? Ok. Donc pour 2022, on va essayer de faire une sorte de réallocation des fonds existants pour l'envoyer à ce fonds. Et à partir de 2023 jusqu'à 2026, pour une première phase, c'est de trouver des ressources pérennes pour ces fonds. Voilà, donc on travaille en totale collaboration avec le ministère des Finances, avec les collectivités locales, et pour avoir une synergie entre les fonds qui existent, comme le fonds de transition énergétique, qui a des actions sur la mobilité, par exemple électrique, sur l'efficacité énergétique. Il y a des synergies qu'on est en train de voir par rapport aux fonds existants. Mais comme j'ai dit, la problématique du financement, elle est primordiale, elle est parmi les problématiques. Après la gouvernance, c'est le financement qui doit être résolu.
It is really funding and governance which are the most important problems to solve.
I do understand it is, of course, a big obstacle, but besides the financing frameworks, and you pointed out a few of them that you are actually implementing, that you are having on your way, what are other obstacles, just as a little add-on? Fatia, because I just had that question to all of you, so I'd like to just dig in again into that question.
Oui, autre que le financement, il y a l'obstacle donc institutionnel. Il y a beaucoup de textes qui doivent être révisés, qui sont en train d'être révisés, surtout pour le partage de compétences et des attributions entre les intervenants de la mobilité urbaine. Il y a les obstacles de coordination et de concertation entre les différents départements, parce que chaque département, il travaille un peu isolé par rapport aux autres. Il a ses objectifs, il a ses priorités, il a ses ressources. Et du coup, donc, il a fallu avoir cette harmonie de planification stratégique collective de l'espace urbain, puisque l'espace urbain, il y a les transports, il y a l'équipement, il y a les routes, il y a l'habitat, il y a les grandes surfaces. Donc, il y a beaucoup d'intervenants dans l'espace urbain qui doivent donc collaborer et travailler ensemble. Cette culture, si j'ose dire, de collaboration et de concertation, elle était instaurée donc à partir de 2018 dans le cadre de la mise en place de ce qu'on a appelé un groupe de travail ad hoc, qui est composé des premiers responsables de chaque département, ministère concerné. Ce groupe de travail, donc, ils se sont mis autour de la même table. C'était pas facile de les mettre autour de la même table, mais on a réussi à les mettre, et ça a vraiment donné beaucoup de bons résultats.
Thank you for this add-on. And now coming, of course, to Prisha again. So when we talk about obstacles, what is on your to-do list when we talk about obstacles? And of course, talking as we all mentioned out, that financing and financial frameworks are among the obstacles. How do you actually tackle that obstacle of financing?
Merci pour la question et pour les échanges avec les autres villes, les autres pays qui sont une bonne expérience pour nous aussi. Dans le cadre de la ville de Douala, l'élaboration du plan de mobilité, justement, comme dans le cadre de Fadia, a pris en compte qu'il nous fallait effectivement un financement pérenne. Et c'est basé sur un cadre financier qui existait déjà. Donc, de se dire que les 10 dernières années, ce qui a été utilisé dans le transport, on pourra aussi estimer ce montant-là pour l'utiliser au cours des 10 prochaines années par les différents acteurs, les différentes parties prenantes. D'une part. D'autre part, le document élaboré nous a permis de solliciter, d'aller vers des partenaires techniques et financiers tels que la Banque mondiale ou la Commission de l'Union européenne pour avoir des financements pour la mise en œuvre d'une part de l'infrastructure, de l'autre part de la mise en place de la gouvernance des mobilités. Bon, pour ce qui est de l'infrastructure qui est financée par un prêt, elle n'est pas entièrement financée. Bon, une partie de ce qui est proposé dans le plan de mobilité fait objet d'études actuellement pour être mis en œuvre au cours des prochaines années par un financement Banque mondiale. Mais cela ne suffira pas. Donc, il faudra encore aller à la recherche de financement pour compléter cette infrastructure-là. Par contre, la Commission de l'Union européenne nous accompagne dans la mise en place de la gouvernance des mobilités, qui consiste à mettre en place l'autorité organisatrice des mobilités, qui permettra de renforcer la mise en cohérence des projets de transport dans la ville par les différents acteurs, de mettre en place un observatoire de mobilité et une agence d'urbanisme dans la ville, qui nous permettra bien sûr de répondre aux différentes recommandations du plan de mobilité urbaine soutenable. Outre ces enjeux de financement, moi je voudrais ajouter l'enjeu de l'appropriation du document en lui-même. Si les techniciens, les spécialistes, la partie publique, entre guillemets, ont pris connaissance du document, c'est très difficile de se dire que tout le monde, tous les acteurs s'en approprient effectivement. Comme je l'ai dit au départ, nous sommes partis d'un document de planification qui ne parlait que d'infrastructure pour un document qui parle d'infrastructure, de mobilité et de gouvernance. Donc, actuellement, notre enjeu aussi, c'est de pouvoir faire en sorte que les pouvoirs publics, les techniciens, la population s'approprie de cette nouvelle mobilité, de cette future mobilité, pour pouvoir travailler ensemble tel que c'est pensé par la communauté urbaine. Donc voilà les enjeux dont je pourrais parler. Merci.
Merci, thank you. Prisha, thank you. Roderick, I would like to come back to you because you were mentioning a few points. You were also talking, of course, from your perspective about government-driven initiatives. But the key question is also how do we engage the communities, how do we engage the citizens when we face to reach sustainable mobility in cities? So where would you see partnerships, not just on a governmental level within different resorts and partners, but also, of course, with the community and the citizens that are using the mobility in the end?
Yeah, that's a good question. From our perspective, the perspective of the planning ministry, it's one of those things that we stumbled along the way. There's so many players here, and getting that right environment, getting the conversation going is key, really, to helping us sort out the many problems in the sustainability mobility sector. I'm not sure if we're one of those bright lights, but technically we're just muddling through and looking at it one step at a time. But it's a recognized problem, and we endeavor to getting this vertical integration, horizontal integration more purposively as we move through our journey.
But what would you say is the key for success when we aim for a cooperation with communities? Do we have to talk more with each other instead of just about each other, or do we need more spaces within, within a city to talk about it? So, what is actually a hands-on experience that you made that helps us?
Well, actually, that's the trick. That's what I've been saying. That's muddling through in the sense that government has been sort of siloed into talking among each other. So the part of the refinement is getting the other players to sort of be a permanent, representative in the conversation, and sort of what's a proper word? Probably challenging the way we normally do things. In terms of, I guess with other sectors that faces similar problems. Basically, we want to match the dynamism of our stakeholders where it is at, and again, to endeavor to bring in the other parties who are not yet there, particularly most of our 140 cities.
Thank you, Roderick. I know it's been a tough question, but thanks for answering it. I'd like to come back to Randy. Randy, you know, when you were talking about the obstacles and of course some opportunities, one keyword that really stood out for me was the word leadership. So can you go on again with the terms of leadership? How does leadership help us to bring sustainable mobility into our cities? Is it the leadership of the citizens? Is it another understanding of leadership from coming back from the politicians? What do you mean by that to really bring it forward and to be a big example of sustainable mobility for your whole country, for whole Ghana?
All right, thank you so much. Yes, I mentioned leadership. Earlier on, I made mention of the fact that the mayor of Kumasi identified mobility as one of the 3 priority areas that he has. And he has been a champion for all the activities that we have been engaging ourselves in. He did not do this alone, but he got all the other chief executives within the Greater Kumasi metropolitan area to be involved in the whole process. And as they are all there, it automatically brings in we, the technical people, to be together and champion a cause. Now, every single thing that we are doing in Kumasi that is mobility related, we try to bring the other municipalities around together. Interestingly, yesterday, we met some of the politicians that are championing some of the, leading some of the subcommittees just yesterday from these municipalities, just to talk about a comprehensive database that is supposed to be set up for the Greater Kumasi area. And in that, and with these things coming up, it is not only the mayor plus the other chief executives, but even the transport operators at the regional level, there are discussions. The mayor has made it possible for them to get to know about the Sustainable Urban Mobility Project and the need for them to own it. At the citizens level, we've done a little bit of engagements on media and some of the markets and those things. But then a greater collaboration will be sought from them when the process for the preparation of the Sustainable Mobility Plan is initiated. Kumasi is a traditional city, and we have our overlord Otumfuo Osei Tutu, one of the 3 top traditional authorities within the world. Now, he supports some of these things, and immediately the traditional authority gives the support. It makes it easier for us to have the needed commitment for every single thing. Already I mentioned the GIZ, AFD, the World Bank, Bloomberg Initiative, and other organizations are supporting Kumasi in 1 or 2 other ways. And with the program idea, we get the kind of leadership, the information that needs to go. So every single opportunity, whether it is with the citizens, whether it's with the transport operators, whether with the politicians, we try to drum it in and see to it that we will be able to amass the leader support for us to implement the project. Yeah.
Thank you, Randy, for this point. Thank you. Fatia, you were also mentioning a few points I'd like to come back to. You were mentioning, of course, that it's about competences and the buildup of competences and the coordination of these competences within the different ministries, within the different stakeholders. You were also mentioning as an obstacle the harmonization of all these different roles and, of course, to build up this culture of cooperation. And you also mentioned as an objective that is needed, modernized and an innovative way of going forward. This is a lot to do. So where are you putting your priorities when we talk about modernization and innovation? Are you actually capable of keeping all that together? You know, one side, the organizational part, and the other thing is really to push forward with innovative, with inspiring, with new methods, and of course, with the modernization of the whole system.
Effectivement, on ne peut pas faire tout en même temps, donc on fait les choses petit à petit et on trace les priorités. Donc, notre priorité, c'est instaurer un mode de gouvernance moderne qui regroupe donc les différents intervenants dans un cadre de travail sain et harmonieux. Qu'est-ce qu'on est en train de faire à l'échelle donc centrale, nationale? On va créer 2 entités centrales. une entité qu'on l'a appelée UTAC, Unité technique d'accompagnement central, qui est le cerveau de cette démarche de mobilité urbaine. Donc, c'est logé auprès du ministère de Transport et Logistique pour évoluer à terme à une entité autonome. Il y a aussi la Commission nationale de mobilité urbaine qui est sur la table maintenant, qui est une commission qui sera présidée par le chef du gouvernement, qui va donc mettre autour de lui les ministres concernés par les problématiques de la mobilité urbaine pour justement fédérer tous ces efforts à l'échelle nationale. Pour ce qui est de local, donc comme vous le savez peut-être que la constitution de la Tunisie de 2014 a donné plus de poids et d'autonomie pour les collectivités locales. Donc, mais ils ont besoin d'accompagnement technique, de renforcement des capacités, d'accompagnement financier. Donc, on est actuellement, on va, j'utilise le terme, on est en train de frapper à leur porte pour leur donc présenter la démarche qu'on est en train de mettre en place et pour les inciter à s'approprier aussi cette démarche et à évoluer dans leur territoire. Donc, on est allé dans les grandes agglomérations de la Tunisie, Sousse, Sfax, Dabel, Hammamet, et même les petites agglomérations. On a donc, comme on a une visibilité et un plan d'action pour la gouvernance de la mobilité urbaine, on est en train de les assister à travers donc nos experts, à travers les assistances techniques avec nos partenaires, donc que je remercie internationaux, à l'instar de GIZ, de la AFD. Donc, on est en train vraiment d'avancer sur ces aspects de coordination et de renforcement de capacité. C'est un travail donc qui n'est pas facile, mais avec ce qu'on a remarqué que tout le monde sont intéressés par une bonne mobilité urbaine durable et qui est mise à niveau. Donc, ils sont tous prêts à collaborer, à travailler dur dans ce domaine.
Absolutely.
To cooperate and to work in this matter.
Thank you, Fatia. Coming back to Prisha for the last round. Prisha, take me with you to Douala. I was there 10 years ago, and you were just mentioning in your opening remarks that, of course, it's also about building up infrastructure, but what does it mean, this build-up of sustainable mobility in Douala, also talking and having the framework of one of the biggest harbors in Douala, in Western Africa. So what has changed in the city? What are you actually proud of when we talk about sustainable mobility in Douala? What would I see if I visited you now?
Merci pour la question. Donc, si on parle de transport durable à Douala, c'est de dire, nous avons commencé par améliorer d'abord la mobilité douce. C'est de se dire qu'on commence par les piétons. Comment est-ce que les personnes dans la ville peuvent se déplacer? Là, on a mis en place un programme qu'on a appelé programme Restituer le trottoir aux piétons. Et on a déguerpi l'espace urbain des commerces anarchiques qui étaient installés. En tant que ville portuaire, effectivement, comme vous le précisez, nous essayons de mettre en place une collaboration entre le port, qui est un port autonome, et la collectivité territoriale, qui est la communauté urbaine de Douala, pour mettre en cohérence la stratégie de développement de port et de son extension avec les documents de planification de la ville. À cet égard, il est question de renforcer le lien entre le fleuve, la ville et le port, de créer donc des espaces viables, des espaces assez ludiques auxquels la population peut accéder facilement. Donc voilà en quelques mots ce qu'on peut dire sur le transport durable. Maintenant, en termes de perspective, comme je le disais précédemment, c'est de faire vraiment un report modal vers un mode plus capacitaire. Nous sommes partis sur du bus rapide transit, sur des itinéraires qui sont déjà identifiés et qui font objet d'études actuellement.
Transport, we have some studies on this in that regard.
And as a follow-up question, how did you actually communicate with the citizens of Douala for these changes, that they become now more walking citizens than maybe the citizens that jump on a motorbike, on a motor taxi? Prisha, I hope you can still hear me. Otherwise, I come back to that question in a moment. Yes, we come back to you in a moment. Roderick, I'd like to come back to you, just wrapping it up now. As a hashtag, I know we are living in these digital social media times. So what is on your to-do list number one? What would you see as the highest priority for your context, coming with your background, and of course having the big goal of a sustainable mobility in your regional country, in your regional area? So what is the priority? What is the main hashtag you can send out to us here to the Transport and Climate Change Week?
Yeah, I guess our main headline again would be will still be about financing, and the others would be just sub headlines. Talking about synergy between among our planning frameworks, land use planning, mobility and transport planning, increasing local capacities, vertical integration. But basically, I guess if you really want to be more general about it, it's about incentivizing behavioral change to our stakeholders. So financing comes with it. So it would need also the continued support from the center in terms of issuances, in terms of guidelines and the like. But generally, it's too many to mention. But we would like to say again that we'd like to match the dynamism inherent in our cities for this interesting initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Roderick, for joining us. Coming back to Randy, when we're just talking about behavioral change, is that something that you'd like to focus on as well? Or what is your highest priority when we look into the future? What is needed? Where do you see really the tipping points that actually decides if we go ahead with our goal of a sustainable mobility in cities?
All right, thank you. We have had situations where organizations come in support with the preparation of some documents and creation of some ideas here and there. Immediately it is finished, it becomes a document that sits down and does not get implemented because it might not have the needed financial support to get it rolled through. So we are looking.
Randy, I can't hear you quite well. I don't know if you hear me again. Otherwise, we just lost you. I hope we can find you in the internet again. Stay with us and come back. Randy, you're back with us. Sorry,
yes,
could you just repeat your two last sentences? That would be lovely. Thank you.
Okay, so we have had situations where programs and projects are prepared, but then funding to actually get them implemented has not been forthcoming. So we would want to see to which that whatever ideas are expressed in the preparation of the Sustainable Urban Mobility Plan, we will be able to have the needed funds to get it through and implemented. This makes it easier for citizens. This makes it easier for people to actually support whenever there are such things coming in. Fortunately for us, the commitment of the political level is very strong, and that has transcended into us, the technical people. And we know that finished with the process, and we'll be able to have funds, get it implemented, it leads us into further improving upon whatever is there in our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy, and greetings to your city and, of course, to your network and community. I hope everything is fine in these unprecedented times of the coronavirus. Coming back, of course, also to you, Fatia, talking and debating about priorities, what is needed. We talked a lot about obstacles, and you gave us a glimpse on how you structured it into your context. But again, to break it down in one hashtag, what would you say? What is the priority that you see as most important on the list of many, many, many different to-dos, but what is the priority?
Il y a beaucoup, il y
I'm not sure
a
if you can hear me,
effectivement beaucoup de
Fatia.
choses.
Otherwise, I
Les
come back.
priorités, si
Prisha is
je
back with
résume,
us.
c'est
Prisha, to wrap it up, I mean, I just wanted to give you the
donc les principales donc, priorités, c'est instaurer un bon cadre de bonne gouvernance, instaurer un financement pérenne, l'appropriation de cette démarche et de ses objectifs et l'engagement de toutes les parties prenantes et à l'échelle centrale et à l'échelle locale. Donc, c'est autour de ces priorités qu'on peut avancer et atteindre nos objectifs. En bref.
Merci. Merci, Fatia, and sorry, that was my mistake because I was just seeing and watching your Frozen video, but I knew and I had the information that you were still with us. So thanks again, of course, for joining us today. Last but not least, Prisha, coming into the question, of course, of priorities and focuses to you, but also stepping back with the question, how do you enable the behavioral change within the citizens of Douala when they switch from maybe taking a car, taking a cab, taking a motorbike to actually walking? So where do you see the priorities in the whole melange?
Merci pour la question. L'objectif, c'est de partir de petite action à petite action qui montrent le changement auprès de la population. C'est de faire vraiment ce qu'on appelle des quick wins, des actions faciles à mettre en œuvre et moins chères, qui vont petit à petit montrer que s'habituer à la marche ou alors à tout autre mode plus capacitaire et même polluant peut être bon pour eux. Nous avons eu à organiser des journées sans voiture pour communiquer sur cette nouvelle mobilité, cette future mobilité aussi. Pour ce qui concerne les priorités, c'est vraiment déjà d'abord de garder le soutien politique que nous avons dans le cadre de la mise en œuvre des projets inscrits dans le plan de mobilité. Ensuite, de continuer ces élans de communication pour faire en sorte que toutes les parties prenantes s'approprient des futures activités, des changements qui auront lieu et de pouvoir mettre en cohérence, mettre sur la même table tous les acteurs du secteur du transport et de la mobilité pour aboutir à une ville durable.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for that round. I can't wait to visit your regions and your cities and to see what we were just actually debating, or that we see each other again in the next Transport and Climate Change Week. So a big digital applause goes out to you into the world, different time zones. Thank you so much for joining us today, for the debating and for bringing in your points, your priorities, of course, your obstacles, being honest with obstacles. I think this is also very important in these debates. And then, debating and inspiring each other to really go forward towards a sustainable mobility in your cities and in your urban areas. Thanks again, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining.